The wind slammed against the mansion door as little Leia, her arms trembling under the weight of baby Noah, cried out, "They threw us into the snow like we were nothing. Is this what life does to children without a name?" Inside, billionaire Adrian Cole froze with his hand on the handle. Outside, the Sierra Nevada storm howled, snow hammering down, burying the world in white. Inside his glass and stone mansion overlooking Lake Tahoe, the fire burned quietly. It was his fortress, his escape from the noise of the world. Adrian sat alone before the hearth, a glass of bourbon untouched, surrounded by silence and unread books. He preferred quiet until the knock came. At first, he dismissed it as a storm. But it came again, 3 sharp, desperate knocks echoing through marble halls. His frown deepened. The driveway was buried, the gate locked. No one could reach him tonight. Still, the pounding continued. He rose, annoyance mixing with unease. Whoever was had no business being here. He swung open the heavy door, and the wind blasted through, carrying snow into the entryway. At first, he saw only darkness and swirling flakes. Then his eyes lowered, and his breath caught. A small girl stood trembling on the steps, no more than 7, her face flushed red and lips blue. Her thin coat clung to her body, snow covering her shoulders. In her arms, she held a bundle wrapped in a threadbare blanket. "Please," she said through chattering teeth. "Please, sir, just one night. We have nowhere else to go." Adrian's instinct was to shut the door, to retreat to his fire and solitude. He had paid for this peace, this distance from human need. But the sight of her small hands clutching that bundle stopped him. The blanket shifted. Inside was a baby, cheeks flushed, breathing shallow, too still. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Where are your parents?" Leia shook her head. "Please, just one night. It's too cold." He looked past her, into the white void of the storm. If he closed the door, they wouldn't survive an hour. And though he'd spent years keeping the world out, he wasn't heartless. He exhaled sharply. "All right, one night, until the storm passes." Relief washed across her face. She stepped in quickly, shoes dripping onto the rug. The baby whimpered softly as the warmth wrapped around them. "Thank you," she whispered. "My name is Leia. This is my brother, Noah." Adrian simply nodded and shut the door, sealing out the storm. The silence inside was different now, filled with fragile breaths and a presence that didn't belong. "Come," he said. "There's a fire." Leia followed, moving carefully, shifting Noah with practiced ease. Adrian glanced back at her. Thin arms, smudged face, eyes too old for her years. In the living room, firelight painted the walls. "You can put your brother there," he said, motioning to the sofa. She hesitated, then gently laid Noah down. The baby stirred, comforted by the warmth. Adrian stood back, arms crossed, uneasy. His home had been built for silence, not children. Yet here they were, small, real, melting snow onto his perfect floor. Moments later, Adrian returned with blankets and a tray of bread, cheese, and fruit. "Eat," he said. She nodded but only nibbled, her eyes always on Noah. Adrian noticed how she moved. Protective, deliberate. She wasn't behaving like a child, but like a guardian. "How long have you been walking?" he asked. "A long time," she murmured. "We saw your lights." "You walk with a baby in this weather?" She hesitated, then whispered, "We had to leave. They didn't want us anymore." Her words landed heavy. Adrian recognized that guarded tone, how children who had been hurt learn not to tell too much. He let it go, though his chest tightened. The fire crackled. Adrian's mind drifted unwillingly to his own childhood. Cold nights, unanswered hopes. He had buried those memories under wealth and order, but Leia's composure cracked something in him. "You'll stay here tonight," he said finally. "Tomorrow we'll see what can be done." Her chin lifted, eyes steady. "We don't want trouble, just a place until it's safe." The quiet strength in her voice startled him. She wasn't begging, she was surviving, and it stirred something inside him he didn't want to feel. Then Noah coughed, a wet, rattling sound. Leia leaned close, panic flashing across her face. "He's hot," she whispered. He gets sick when it's cold, but it always passes. Adrian stepped closer, pressing a hand to the baby's forehead. The heat beneath his palm made his stomach twist. "He's burning up," he said. "This won't just pass." Leia clutched Noah tighter. "If we go to hospital, they'll take him away. They always do. Please, don't let them separate us." Her fear was raw, desperate. Adrian stared at her, realizing she'd already learned too much about how cruel the world could be. He hesitated, torn between logic and compassion. He didn't take responsibility for anyone. Not anymore. But then Noah's breath hitched, shallow and fast, and that sound cut through every wall he built. "Listen to me," Adrian said, lowering his voice. "He needs a doctor. I'll take you both. I won't let them separate you. I promise." She searched his face for truth. Seconds passed, then she nodded. "Promise?" "I promise." Within minutes, he bundled Noah in blankets, helped Leia into his heavy coat, and led them to the garage. The storm screamed against the walls as he started the SUV, headlights slicing through snow. Leia sat in the back seat, holding Noah close, whispering softly to him as Adrian navigated the icy mountain roads toward Reno. He kept glancing in the rearview mirror, watching her rock her brother, eyes half shut with exhaustion, but still protective. A quiet anger built in him, not at her, but at the world had failed them. When city lights finally appeared, he felt an overwhelming relief. The hospital glowed like salvation through the blizzard. As they pulled up, Leia gripped Noah tighter. Adrian placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We're here. He'll be all right." She nodded, trembling, and followed him inside. The sliding doors opened, flooding them with warmth and light. Inside the hospital, nurses hurried forward as soon as they saw the baby. Adrian stayed close behind, his expensive coat dripping onto the tile floor. "Severe fever," the nurse said quickly. "We need him in pediatrics now." Leia tried to follow, but a nurse gently blocked her. "Sweetheart, you have to wait out here." "No," she cried, struggling. "He needs me." Adrian stepped between them, his tone calm but firm. "She's not leaving his side. She stays." The nurse hesitated at the authority in his voice, then nodded. "All right, sir. Follow me." Inside the small room, the doctors worked quickly. Oxygen mask for drip, temperature monitor. Adrian stood at the door, watching the scene unfold. The baby's breathing steadied little by little, though his tiny chest still rose and fell too fast. Leia clung to Adrian's coat, her hand small against the dark wool. "He's going to be okay, right?" He looked down at her and, to his surprise, realized he wanted to reassure her. "Yes," he said quietly. "He will." Hours passed. The snowstorm howled outside, but inside the sterile room, warmth returned. Leia dozed in a chair, exhaustion finally winning. Adrian sat beside her, watching her head rest against the bed rail, her hand still gripping Noah's blanket. When dawn came, a doctor entered quietly. "He'll be fine," she said. "Lucky you brought him when you did." Adrian nodded. "Can they leave now?" "Soon," the doctor replied. "But the social worker needs to speak with you." The children were brought in without guardianship records. Adrian's jaw tightened. "I'll handle it." Minutes later, a woman in a gray suit entered, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Cole," she greeted politely. "We need to discuss the situation. The girl claims they have no parents." He crossed his arms. "They were freezing to death outside my property. I brought them in." "Of course," she said carefully. "But now that they're under medical care, we have to determine placement." "Placement," Adrian repeated. "Yes, they'll be transferred to a temporary home while we locate any relatives." Leia, half awake, caught the words. "No," she whispered hoarsely. "Please, don't take us. I'll work, I'll clean, I'll do anything, just don't take Noah." Adrian felt something inside him twist. He had watched companies beg for his signature, politicians beg for donations, but never a child beg for family. He turned to the social worker. "You'll do nothing until I speak to my lawyer." The woman frowned. "Sir, that's not how—" "It is now," he cut in. His tone was steel. "They're coming home with me." Within an hour, paperwork was signed, questions deflected, and they were back in his car. Noah sleeping soundly, Leia silent beside him. The drive back to the mansion was quiet. The snow had stopped. Sunlight broke over the mountains, turning everything gold. When they arrived, Adrian opened the front door himself. The fire had burned low, but the warmth still lingered. He set down his coat and turned to Leia. "This house," he said slowly, "has 13 rooms and not one voice. It's time that changed." Leia blinked at him, uncertain. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, "you'll stay here, both of you, until I find out who failed you and why." Her mouth fell open. "You'd let us live here? You don't even know us." "I didn't know myself once," he said. "Maybe you'll help me remember." Over the following weeks, the mansion changed. It was subtle at first. The echo of small footsteps in the halls, a child's laughter that startled Adrian mid-call. Leia insisted on helping in the kitchen. Noah began to crawl on the marble floor, his giggles bouncing off stone. One morning, Adrian came down to find crayons scattered across the dining table. His first instinct was irritation. Then he saw what she'd drawn, a big house on a hill, smoke curling from its chimney. 2 stick figures stood outside, holding hands. She'd labeled them Leia, Noah, Mr. A. He stared at the picture for a long time. That night, he found her reading to Noah in front of the fire. She looked up as he approached. "Do you want me to stop?" "No," he said quietly. "Keep reading." And so she did. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Adrian's life, once rigidly scheduled, became unpredictable. Morning pancakes, midnight fevers, crayon murals on the walls. His staff whispered that their employer was changing. He didn't deny it. Then, one afternoon, his lawyer arrived with documents. About the children, the man began. The girl's parents abandoned her after her mother's death. The boy, her half-brother, was born later. No legal guardians. Adrian stared out the window, jaw set. "So they have no one." "No one," the lawyer confirmed. Adrian signed the papers without another word. A month later, the adoption was finalized quietly. No press, no headlines. Just Adrian Cole, billionaire recluse, signing his name beside 2 children who had once knocked on his door in a storm. That night, he gathered them in the living room. Leia looked nervous. Noah sat on her lap, holding a toy car. Adrian knelt to their level and handed her a small envelope. "This is for you." Inside was a new birth certificate with his last name. She stared at it, then at him. "You mean we're family?" He nodded, his voice soft. "If you'll have me." For the first time since he'd met her, Leia cried freely, not from fear, but relief. She threw her arms around him, and he held her, something in him finally breaking open. From that night on, the mansion was never silent again. Sometimes, when the snow fell hard against the windows, Adrian would remember that first knock, the sound that changed everything, and he would smile, grateful that he had opened the door.